two brothers search for the oldest's mother while he tries to reconnect with his indigenous heritage. We're talking movies, we're talking Wildhood, starring Michael Greyeyes, Joel Thomas Hines, and Philip Forrest Lewinsky. Written and directed by Bretten Hannam. Chris, stand up like a man for once in your life.
Listen, lucky he didn't hear you. He'd bust your head. He's small, but those raccoon hands of his are more unforgiving than his attitude. Hey everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of How'd You Like That Movie? We're not talking about residential schools, which is good, I guess. We're going to be talking about the Canadian Screen Award nominated and winning film, 2021's Wildhood. Scott, take us away.
Okay, I'm going to say...
I felt like Casey Kasem there.
You sounded pretty good. And this one goes out too. But I just want to say I enjoyed this film a lot last year when we did our Canadian Scream Awards episode, which, majority of the films we didn't watch because they weren't
I'm pretty
out.
sure it's the Canadian Screen Awards, although I would definitely watch the Canadian Scream Awards. That sounds something we can definitely do if they don't exist already.
Yeah, that was before we started. We were talking about horror. But yeah, so Screen Awards were, majority of these films we couldn't watch, and we just picked them off of trailers.
Oh, that's right. Or by the name.
Yeah.
If you go back and check out that episode, we're like, we couldn't watch this movie. Sounded interesting. And yeah, watch the trailer and just randomly dissected the film from the 15-second or 20-second trailer. So
yeah, because I'm gonna say this film looked a lot better than the 30 to 90-second trailers that I watch. And I just want to start by saying I'm sorry to everyone who made this film, because who the fuck am I about saying all the things I'm about to say about it? Because you guys did win a bunch of awards, but man, I haven't seen a film that didn't know what it was going to be or what identity it was. And as bad as this one, man, each act is completely different, tone and everything compared to the other one. And it's like they were trying to do Joseph Campbell's hero journey, but they just went step 1 and 3 and then just went right to 12, because I don't know what the fuck this movie is supposed to be.
I think it's funny that I think you and I are going to say roughly the same stuff, maybe in different ways, but in my brain, your comment about who the fuck am I to talk about this? Because yeah, it won a bunch of prestigious awards. It got nominated for 6 Canadian Screen Awards, winning Best Supporting. I actually feel exactly the same way as you, where it's I probably shouldn't comment, but I'm fucking going to.
All right, do you want to start? You're meaner than I am, so you might as well start.
Oh, so you were gonna good cop, bad cop this?
Yeah, well, it's gonna be
good cop, bad cop.
Yeah, well, that sure, because it ain't gonna be a lot of good. I don't think it's not gonna be a lot of good.
Okay, so I will also start with what I enjoyed about this film. I think that it's important subject matter. I think the idea of an indigenous youth being raised by a white father who's basically trying to beat the native out of him, and really shaming him for that. I think that's awesome. The road trip kind of story, I like those kind of stories. The cinematography is fantastic, which is funny because I'm the DOP is Guy Godfrey, and I'm why do I fucking know that name? I'm it's because we've talked about him on our show multiple times. So he's the cinematographer that did Slashback. He also did Maude, but Brother, which also cleaned up at the Canadian Screen Awards. We haven't talked specifically about that, but I've made comments about that film, cleaning up at the Canadian Screen Awards, and I'm I don't know if it should have won all those. But he's also the cinematographer on Little Bird, which is Maya Tailfeather's film. So I was oh, okay, well, we're covering a bunch of films, and the Canadian cinematographer from Nova Scotia keeps showing up. So the cinematography was great. All the acting was great. If you were to just take this film as scene by scene by scene by scene, the scenes are well acted. The problem is I would argue that there's a whole lot of how do I say this? Basically, the way I was thinking about this when I was doing my notes is that it's like when you write your not your treatment, but your outline, and you've got your story beats. You're like, okay, and I want this in my first act, and these are going to move me through into my second act, and da 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 da. And then you're supposed to kind of fill in the connective tissue. This just felt like a series of story beats. Oh, I want a cool scene where the kid throws a cup of pee at his like racist dad. Okay, so how do we get there? And they just didn't really pay a whole lot of attention to the how or the why. They're just like, well, I mean, we're driving in a truck, so we'll just have him pee in a cup. But there's no logic to it. Like, there's so many scenes where I'm like, why is this happening like this? Like, hey kids, I'm gonna call the cop. Let's go. We gotta jump in this truck right now and like tow a burnout out of here. It's like, or you could just get in your truck and leave. Like, you know what I mean? Like this, like, and then you see the cause and effect. Like you go, oh, like a couple minutes later, you see why they were doing that, but it's not rational. Like there was so many sections that are just not rational. Also, hey, random dude I met, we should now go on this adventure. Like again, or even the sex scene between the two men. Like there's like, yes, they're kind of giving like eyes to each other, but compare that to like Brokeback Mountain. Like there's tension. There is definite tension between those two men before that scene happens. And so it resolves that tension. This is just like, no, 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 no. Oh, we're doing an LGBTQ film. Oh, time for the sex scene in the waterfall. Like, what? I was like, what the fuck? Like, I get why they were doing that, but I didn't feel like the connective tissue leading up to it led up to it. You know what I mean?
Yes. Okay. So I'm going to give you some of the stuff that you touched on. So one, in terms of cinematography, some of it was good, but some of it, like recently, I just bought the iPhone 14
fuck, here
Pro
we go.
Max.
I can't wait to see how this explanation.
So I just recently bought that phone, right? Because new one, the 15's out. This one's cheaper. It has cinematic mode on it. So half of the scenes of this movie seem like he also had this phone, and just decided to do cinematic mode on it, because like the resolution that happens at the end when he finally finds his mom, and
in the forest there or whatever,
and like you're saying, it's like story beats. So he walks into the forest. I'm assuming that was his grandmother that shows up at the beginning and could have just took him in the car from the jail to where he needs to go.
I thought she looked familiar.
Yeah, right. Like, and then she's sitting at the, like, first of all, I don't know how much pull she has that, hey, while this guy is knocked out in the police jail, I'm going to be allowed to sit in with him and, pat his forehead with a cloth and and then just be like, once he wakes up, oh, now you have to leave. And then just sit there while he goes instead of, hey.
Also, Zach, now that you bring that up, doesn't that also kind of mean that like that whole trip, that whole like crazy adventure has only taken place in about like 3 kilometers?
Give or take.
Yeah,
right?
like they didn't really get very far.
But it seemed like it was, because it seemed like what, Cape Breton to, it was like BC to, yeah, wasn't it like apparently like
They're on
across
the East
country?
Coast,
Like,
by the way. They're on the East Coast, not BC.
no, but I thought at the end, don't they go to BC? Like, isn't that the reservation that the mom's on is in BC?
Okay, well then I might have missed that part too. I'll be honest, there are points of this film I feel like I zoned out, so you may have a better recollection.
But I also could be mistaken, because I know it could be just in terms of where they were filming too, because I know at the beginning they had the disclaimer about like the Mi'kmaq and where they're like in BC and stuff like that. Maybe that was just based off of where they were filming.
Mi'kmaw is in Nova Scotia. It's actually more like New Brunswick, Quebec is where the Mi'kmaw nation is, because that's also where Jeff Barnaby is from, but he's from more like the Quebec side of it.
Okay, but I remember there's somewhere that in my head there's BC. I don't know. I also zoned out.
I watched a BC tourism ad before I watched the movie. There was a grizzly bear. I just kind of lumped all that in. Canada's a small country. I get it. I get how you can make that mistake. So
yeah.
Anyway, back to the cinematography. Okay, so they're in the forest.
So they're in the forest, and like you're saying, like tension, and like this whole like fucking journey is I need to find my mom that I just found out is actually alive, who I thought was
Was
dead.
dead.
That
Yeah.
that my deadbeat dad fucking told me was dead. Then, he comes up, she comes up, there's like a little space between them, and he goes, my name's Lincoln, I'm your son. And then it's just quiet, and then it's just a bunch of over the shoulder close-ups of them walking without fucking saying a word.
I mean,
And
you know
then
what I
that
did
goes,
actually leading up to that though is I think it's right before, is it right before that scene where you see, or maybe it is that scene where you see the like child version of him, and they kind of go with like a really dreamscape. There's like this young child and like a young mother
well,
kind
that
of.
was that was intercut in between the whole film, because you never saw the mom's face. Her face was always like blurred out kind
That's
of
right.
thing,
That's right.
right?
That's right. That's
And
right.
he was just like remembering his mom, right? Trying to remember his mom as much as he could. But yeah, but then, so you have this, and then they're walking, and then it's just this over the shoulder shit that my iPhone could fucking record. um and then it's just like you have the resolution, and I'm like, that was literally like 4 minutes of wasted time to just try to be like, oh, this shot would look good, this shot would look good, right? And I recently, like yesterday, went and watched the fucking Nun 2, and not the best movie, but there's a fucking scene where the kid and the mom like reconnect after all the trauma, and they fucking run to each other and like hug, and like and like all their emotions are pouring out, and I'm like, you haven't seen your son in like 20, how many years, like 15, 16, 17 years? You haven't seen your mom, and at no point you guys run to each other to like embrace. It's let's go on another hike.
Like, I've already done a lot of walking. I love how that's your criticism though of the cinematographer, is that he chose this like over the shoulder shot, and you're like,
Yeah,
my
man.
iPhone could do it. Okay, David Finchner.
It could though. It
Sean
literally,
Baker.
pull up any commercial for the cinematic mode for the iPhone, and it's all the over the over the shoulder shots that, the forefront's super in focus and the background's not. But yeah, and
I mean, yeah,
also,
I thought the cinema. So sometimes cinematography doesn't need to be super special; it just needs to be really competent. I thought I do not have any complaints with the cinematography in this film. Find the film's just like sluggish and boring, and it
yeah,
didn't need
well,
to be. Like
uh,
the story itself has lots of possibility to it. It's just not written very well or executed very well.
yeah,
And like you
well,
said, this thing won like a ton of awards. So who the fuck am I to say that? But I'm like, I'm saying it. Like,
yeah, no, no, I understand, right? Because even what you're saying about their like, supposed like sexing, because it
I mean,
did seem
supposed
like,
it had like
no,
oral
no,
and
no, what I mean, like, how it's like their love finally, like their passions
manifests
finally.
itself physically.
Yeah, because it's the same thing. Once they meet each other, like when they first get introduced to each other in that convenience store, it does seem like the one character is literally like already like predatory over the guy, like, hey, you like dirt bikes? What's your favorite dirt bike? I like dirt bikes. You want to get dirty?
Would you fuck me? Then fuck me.
Right. but, but when they
Got
see it, like,
trade.
but I will give them this, like, because I'm assuming like this, it's supposed to be like end of summer, beginning of fall when this comes, because there is a lot of leaves falling and shit like that, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. How cold that water might be.
Oh fuck, man, to be able to get it up, I give them props to be like, that's how much they fucking wanted each other, because it's zero below water and they still fucking both came, right? Like, I'll give them
Jesus.
props on that.
Nice.
Yeah, and that's our show. uh yeah, man. So I don't even like, I don't want to say I don't recommend this, but I feel like I don't recommend this. Like it's fine. Like I said, it looks good. The acting is great. I think it's important subject matter. but it is very sloggy. I mean, and not everything needs to be like super dynamic and actiony. And I know I use this example all the time, but like go watch Schindler's List, which is about the fucking Holocaust. And again, I don't know if the word entertaining, but like it's captivating. It's captivating. This is not like it's fucking boring. And I feel like I even at the end of the what is it 100 minutes or whatever, I didn't actually give a shit about these characters, and not because there's nothing to care about, but they didn't. I cared about them. Actually, it starts off pretty good. You know, the inciting incident, you know, the arrest, and then moving into the abusive dad, which actually, so Joel Thomas Hines plays the dad. Doesn't he kind of remind you of like a Ben Foster, like a character Ben Foster would play?
Even like the introduction, like I don't know how much he got paid, but the brother, like the uncle,
Oh
who's
yeah,
you
yeah,
could
yeah, yeah.
who you could tell was like, I'm about to molest you kind of thing, but I'm not going to molest you because my brother came in. And you could tell there was like history there. And then it just dropped. At no point it's ever fucking picked up again. All right.
That's what I mean though. Like, so there was lots of scenes that like they would work on their own, and then like yeah, there's either no follow through or they don't connect to the next scene. Again, it's all like I since I've been like taking formal screenwriting courses recently, I can see certain things that are being done. And it's like I said, so you write your beat sheet. I'm like, okay, so I can see the beat sheet like in this film, but then I can see how like they're using like a 3-act structure in each scene, but you need to bring them together. And it feels like that part just didn't happen. It's often when you sit down and you brainstorm, you're like, oh, you know, it'd be a cool scene. You know, it'd be a cool scene. And that's great. Like that is the preliminary aspect. But this thing even won like script awards and stuff. And I'm like, I don't know, man. Like I couldn't imagine reading this on the page, unless it just didn't get directed very well. But I mean, it's written and directed by Bretten Hannam. Like they had full control creatively. So again, maybe it just didn't get executed. Maybe stuff got left on the cutting room floor. But I mean, at 100 minutes, you had 20 more minutes, or you had at least 10 more minutes you could have gone just to hit your standard 2-hour mark. So it's not like you had this like overly long film that you were cutting down. So I think you just didn't shoot the material, or you don't have the material.
Yeah, to be honest, I thought it was 130 minutes. I thought it was a 90-minute film, but
100 Scott,
well, 90 minutes.
You had just said 130 minutes.
Sorry, an hour and 30 minutes. Sorry.
Whatever.
See, it's I'm back to watching this film where I'm like, I don't even know the concept of time anymore.
That said, when Michael Grey Eyes shows up, like he definitely is like, he's such a great actor, and the scenes that he's in, he's very commanding. So I found that like my interest went back up as soon as he got on the screen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but even still, going into the because what was it? It was like the trans bar, right? That's where he brings them.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been like just it could be more than just trans. It could also just be drag queens and stuff like that. But yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
But listen, I want to be that fucking owner, man.
The madam or whatever.
Mad mom. Just look at people's eyes like, I know who your fucking mom is, motherfucker. I know those eyes. But that was one of my favorite scenes where he was just like standing there like, I don't give a shit about like Privacy Act. And I'm like, this ain't the government anymore. Like they can tell you. Like
again, yes, exactly. Right. And it was always like either there was not enough outrage for a scene, like really, like it's sort of like The Room, right? Like you're like, really, that's your response to that situation, or it was like over the top, like I said, like let's get out of here. Oh, and also, it's my dad. Like how did the dad get behind you? Know that you're in that like
especially what? Know the direction you went, right? Because you were walking and he was stuck in the house, like while his car's burning down, right? But I guess they did take a couple of minutes to watch the car burn, so the dad could have gotten out at that time, right? Just to have that one scene of them.
But then he just like randomly shows up at like just outside the grocery store.
Yeah.
And when they pull off to the side road, it's
it's
you
piss.
threw urine at him. You didn't throw a bowling ball on the car. Like,
yeah, that's what I was thinking too. I'm like, it's fucking piss. There's wiper blades for a reason, right? And windshield wash.
yeah, in like a McDonald's cup. Like, again, it's not like you threw like a mug at the car and broke the windshield. But and he does that like hardcore like power slide sideways. Like again, that was someone being like, oh, you know what we need here? We've got a little bit of money in the budget. We definitely need some type of car chase.
Yeah, enough bashing this film. Yeah, I'll say I agree with you. I thought the acting was very well done. But because
Hey, this is our
main
second film with Philip Lewinsky.
because I was gonna say he did. That's what I was gonna say. Like he was really good in
Bones of Crows.
yes. So that's the
which,
thing.
Which is like an episode we did like 2 weeks ago. So you should check that out for sure.
Yep, I agree.
He gave me like a very much like a River Phoenix. Like, I think this guy is gonna be a big deal. Like, he's young, he's starting to get some like really serious roles. His acting chops are great. I think with a decent like with what's when he's got a good script and proper direction, he's fantastic. And again, he's got a good look about him. I think we're gonna see him in more stuff for sure. I mean, the other kind of, I guess he's supporting. He won for supporting Joshua Onek. He was also in Bones of Crow. He's in Little Bird. I think he's got a great future ahead of him as well. Like all of these actors they did like a bang up job. So are you not going to say anything?
Oh, I just said that. Like I just said that the actors were good, and then you in it. I'm not going to repeat and be like, yeah, the actors did a great job because I started that fucking conversation.
So
like,
did you watch this by yourself, or did you make your kids watch it?
Yeah, no, I watched it by myself. Because I knew it wasn't going to be one that they're like in terms of something they'd want to watch. So
no, that's why you make them watch those films.
No, that's the thing, right? Like you got to like slowly bring them into it, right? So right now they're in their horror, like it's they're getting ready for the horror shit. So we're watching a lot of horror movies in this household right now. Get them going with that. So they're really going to be looking forward for the next month of our podcast.
Oh, because they get to watch cool stuff.
Yeah.
Did you would you even recommend this film? Like I said, I
don't know.
Anybody I would recommend it to is like maybe filmmakers. I don't know. Like, again, there's not.
It's literally goes back to our intro, right? Like, I don't know. Like for me, I thought this was like so boring, and I'm like, but it won so many fucking awards. So like to me, it's like,
well,
it has to be
awards in Canada, right? It won a lot of awards in Canada.
But that's the thing. I'm like, it still doesn't matter if it wins a lot of awards in Canada, it wins a lot of awards in the US, so it wins a lot of awards in fucking Argentina. It doesn't fucking matter, right? It won awards, right? Like,
well, no, it does matter because I think that there's a certain subject matter that maybe resonates more so in a certain country, especially like outside of its just like sheer quality. Although I believe it played at TIFF as well. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying, right? Like to me, it's like one of these things that it's like this might be bizarre world where it is me, right? Like it's just me. Like I don't understand. Like it just didn't resonate with me. So
okay, so I've got some of the awards. So Fin Atlantic is again like a pretty prestigious festival, but it does tend to favor Atlantic films. So I'm like, okay, it's an East Coast film, blah blah blah. Cinefest Sudbury, it got indigenized outstanding talent. So again, it's competing in a very specific category. It did get nominated for a Directors Guild Award. So you like that one? That's like a across the board kind of an award. Like you're in the DGC, you get to submit your film. They nominated it. They nominated Bretten for that. Obviously, we already talked about the Canadian Screen Awards, and where it was like nominated for Best Picture, Director, Actor, Supporting Actor, Original Screenplay, Casting. I always find casting a weird award. And then it was in the Vancouver Film Critics Best Supporting Actor. Went to Joshua Odenek, which is also who won the Canadian Screen Award, and then Screen Nova Scotia. So, I mean, some of those are awards that, like I said, are very specific to Canada. But like I said, it played at TIFF, so I mean, somebody else other than somebody thought it was good.
And also, you know, it was nominated at the Palm Springs International Film Festival. I don't know what the Queer Tease is, but it was nominated. GLAAD Media Awards, it was nominated.
Well, those are all
So,
LGBTQ awards, right? So it's definitely
right.
a strong LGBTQ theme film. And again, like it's a competent film. It's just not very entertaining. It's funny because it's got a 100
AFTRA awards.
it's got a 100% rate, like fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes for critics and 77% from the audience. But there's an asterisk beside that because it's only been reviewed by 35 critics and 55 audience members. So your mom, your dad, all of them went and like watched your movie, and then you were like, yo, go on fucking Rotten Tomatoes and rank this and give me a good score.
Well, it's a good thing we're not considered critics for Rotten Tomatoes because we would bring it down to 99.
Yes, 99.
But I'm done. I don't want to talk about this movie anymore. Please don't make me fucking talk about this movie anymore. And that is our wrap for the day. Please like and subscribe to this podcast. Tell your friends. If you want to get a hold of us, reach us at the www.howdyoulikethatmovie.com.
Yo, man, I'm looking at the fucking poster for this, and it also reminded me, I thought there was going to be more powwow dancing. Like, did I miss something? Like, I feel like the only, like, the primary powwow dancing is, like, that little section where he's, like, warming up, working out, whatever you want to call it, and he shows him some shit. Like, is there a part in the end credit scene that has?
No. In the end, they're both doing it because the one guy's all dressed up, and then the Lincoln guy joins in because he learned the dance.
Yeah, but that's it. Like the fucking poster is them dancing, and there's very little dancing in this film. Production by Rod Shaver, Vader Monkey Productions.